American Gunfighter Podcast. Hosted by your instructors from Ghost Ring Tactical. With their combined experience in the military, law enforcement, firearms instructing industry, and security, they'll be discussing tactics, training, firearms, and equipment to help you become an even better American gunfighter.
Nick Bryant's here, and welcome to the second episode of the American Gunfighter Show. Today, we have with us Micah No.
How's it going?
And we have instructor Scott Warren.
What's up?
All right, so the first topic that we're going to be covering for today is going to be on carbine or AR setups. So I've gotten this question, I think, 3 times just last week, where people were asking me on our advice on if they don't have a carbine currently, what we recommend for their first buy or their first build. So if you can see, we actually have multiple rifles that are surrounding us right now. Yes. Okay. So
I feel so safe.
we are going to go through and one by one explain what we have here and what we recommend. So we're going to talk about rifle brand. We're going to be talking about all the attachments that we have on them. We'll be talking about barrel length and everything you can think of when it comes to a carbine. So if you are looking at purchasing one, looking at building one, that you'll have a better idea of what to get. So hopefully you don't get a piece of shit. Good. All right. Who wants to start off with this?
I mean, I feel like we can go with your pieces of shit, and then
Okay.
and then we'll work our way.
Work your way. So start with piece of shit and get better.
In that case, I got to go first.
Oh yeah, he's probably
I
right.
gotta
You're
go
probably
first.
right. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, we're trash here. So.
All right.
All right, here we
Scott.
go.
Scott, show us what you got.
So check it out. It's I live in Michigan, and obviously we're in New Mexico right now. So I have to fly and travel with my gun. So this is just a pretty simple range gun for me, and what I need it for out here. Right, your gun should be set up to really fit your purpose, and my purpose out here primarily is, the hand-to-hand stuff, and we also do in some of our camps some rifle and pistol shooting, and so what I need it for is simple things, right? I have just a Palmetto State lower, an FN upper. I do have an aftermarket trigger in just because I prefer it. We have the Vortex magnifier and the EOTech. Simple. I'm running a 2-point sling and a Surefire light up front, and obviously backup irons here with the hand stock. For me, I just use it as a reference point, so I go to the same spot every time.
Okay. So let's break it down a little bit.
Yeah.
What's the length of the barrel?
It's 14.5 with an 1.5 pinned and welded flash hider there
Okay.
to make it legal length. Yep.
Okay. Flashlight. What do you have? A Surefire? Is that the Scout Mini? What is that?
It is the Scout Mini, and I
Okay.
don't run a pressure plate here, but I do on my gun at home.
Okay. Okay.
Pressure switch. I'm sorry.
Okay. So you just got just the button to
yeah,
press on
yeah.
that one.
And so that's why it's on my left side, actually. So when I'm holding, I can just hit it with my pointer finger.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
And then those are mag pull rear, the backup sights?
Yeah,
correct?
the Mbus Magpul flip ups.
Yeah, the flip ups. Okay.
Sure are.
All right. And the EOTech, what model is that one? Old? Model?
EXPS
Model old?
2.
Okay.
It is the EXPS. Yeah.
Okay.
2. It has the 2 dots in the middle, and along with your outer ring.
Okay. Okay.
Yep.
And then the magnifier, what do you have for the magnifier?
Vortex. Yep.
Vortex
It's
magnifier.
a 3x, 3 times
Okay.
magnification.
And that's
Yep.
a flip up.
Yep.
Okay. Okay, very good. And you've got your upgraded charging handle as well, correct?
I do,
You
yep.
got- is that the Radian?
It is. It is.
Okay.
Must have. It's kind of standard issue for us nowadays.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. And buttstock?
Hogue. Yeah.
Okay.
It's comfortable. Super, super, super comfortable.
I actually just put that on one of my rifles, and I've just been playing with it, and I
love
like it so far.
Yeah, I love it. I have it on all of mine. All of mine. Yep.
Okay. I think that's about it for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just a simple setup for what I need it for out here.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. All right. So I've just got a couple of my rifles that are sitting out here. So I currently have a 16-inch carbine. I have a 10.5-inch carbine, and I have a 7.5-inch. So I'll start off with it's a big one. She's heavy.
Big girl.
She's a big girl. This is the first rifle I bought after I got out of the Marine Corps. Okay.
Is it like a clone? It looks very, very similar to probably what you would
It
have
is
had
probably
in
the
Marine
closest thing that I could get to what I actually used.
Okay.
And that's why I bought it.
I was going to say, was that a reason
There
for
was
you
a
to
reason.
have it set up that way? Was that familiarity?
So it is. I was very familiar with this setup, so I tried to make a rifle that was very similar to what I used in the Marine Corps. So this is a Daniel Defense upper and lower. I have a old school, your heavy rail system on here. The light, that is a Surefire light. That is the Scout. That's not the Scout Mini. That's just the full-size Scout. I do have the Surefire pressure switch on there. So when it comes to lights and pressure switches, I prefer not to just have a pressure switch. I prefer to have a pressure switch and a constant on and off, right? The reason for that is that I've seen multiple people attend classes out here where they just have the pressure switch, and I see a lot of them shooting in the dark, where they're not continually keep constant pressure on there when they take the shots. Light will be on, they'll take a shot, light will be off, they take another shot, light will come back on, especially when it comes to CQB stuff, when we get into active shooters. If I have an active shooter and I'm running through a house quickly, I want to have the light on the whole time. Yes, if I'm doing a slow clear, I'll do the light on, the light off, the Firefly technique. But if I get a situation where I have an active shooter, I want to have the ability to turn this light on and keep it on instead of just using that pressure switch. Okay.
Like you touched on that kind of sympathetic reaction that you have, right? Like, so from a law enforcement perspective, how many times have we read stories about law enforcement officers negligently discharging the firearm when they were going on their radio?
Yep.
So if they push the mic with their left hand, they're pulling the trigger with their right hand at the same time. So just something to be mindful of.
Yep. Sights wise, I have an Aimpoint Comp 4. That's old school right there. Okay.
Still works.
But yeah, well, this one still works. My other one on my 10.5 inch, that actually just went down. Yeah, so I'm going to have to talk to you about sending that in to hopefully get it fixed. Yeah. But I've also had that one, I think, for 15 years. I think I've had it for that long, and it finally died. And usually with these Comp 4s, it's a single AA in there, and I leave my light on all the time. And, I mean, that lasted, I think, 3-4 years on one battery. Yeah, it's pretty impressive. On here, I do have a magnifier just because this is my 16-inch, so this would be, if I'm going to shoot for longer range, this would be the rifle that I'd use. I honestly haven't used this rifle in a long time, okay? With the magnifier, I would rather have I know. See how old school that is?
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
That was...
See
wow.
That? Look at that. Oh, look, put it back on.
Wow.
Yeah. So I don't even know what they call this magnifier. It's a 3x magnifier, but it's not I'd rather have a flip up.
Is that an Aimpoint magnifier? Is that like old school, like Gen 1?
Yes. Yes.
Man.
That is an Aimpoint magnifier.
That's some nostalgia right there.
Yes, it is. That's why it sits on my shelf and I look at it. I don't really shoot it very often. All right. But I also have the ambidextrous charging handle on there, the Radiant buttstock. Okay, just your standard buttstock on there. Sling. I really like the Faro Concepts. Was this the Slingster?
Slingster.
Yeah, where my recommendations is always going to be a 2-point sling, and all my 2-point slings, I think on all my carbines now have the adjustable 2-point sling on them. So I think I have the same sling on all 3 of my rifles. I think that's about it for this old school guy. All right. Next up, if I can get this thing. Okay. All right. So this one here, I don't even remember what the hell this is. This is
Shield Arms?
This is Shield Arms. Yep. So this is the Shield Arms upper and lower. This is a 7.5 inch SBR. On here, this is a little bit more updated compared to my other one. This has got a newer EOTech on it. I can't remember what model this one is, but this is the one with the night vision capabilities. Even though I don't have night vision, it's just, it's dreams.
An extra button that says NV. It makes
It's
you
just
feel cool.
It's dreams.
Yeah.
It's like maybe one of these days I'll be able to justify.
Can't be cool if it doesn't look cool.
I know. Yeah. So, it's there. It's ready. It's ready for that night vision whenever I get it. Also on here, I have the Magpul sights. I have the Surefire Scout Mini light on this one with the same pressure switch. I still do have the ambidextrous charging handle. I have the Faro Concept Slingster. And what I really like on this one is with the shield arms, with their lower, they're folding stock. Yeah, folding stock. Yeah. With a Hogue buttstock on it. So I really like this folding stock because there's nothing else. There's nothing to change out on it. I can easily take this upper off and put this standard defense upper on top on this one, and I don't have to change anything with what is it? Normally you got to change like the pins and
like the Law tactical folder. It's going to have that extra plunger that sits inside the bolt carrier group. The nice thing about the shield is that all the folding components are contained within the lower receiver, and so they have a proprietary extended buffer inside, and that allows, like Nick was saying, I can just swap up and down without having to pull a little plunger out and make all these weird things and, take this apart and pull that out. And then I can take my pin down.
Yep.
It works just like a normal AR upper and lower coming together and coming apart based on the way that it's designed as a folder.
Yep. The only other thing I've got on here, I've got a suppressor on here. This is just a cheap, I think it's a Yankee Hill suppressor. I've got some new ones on the way, but they're still in suppressor jail, probably for another 8 months, probably maybe less, maybe 6.
Yeah, when we do years in July.
Yeah,
it'll be a while.
Yeah,
it'll be a while.
The only other thing I've got here is a hand stop. So this is purely here to stop my hand, so I don't put my hand further forward and blast my fingers off. So I'm pretty sure that's a Magpul. Yeah, that's a Magpul. Yeah. Just a hand stop on there, so I have a reference point to make sure my hand I don't get excited and push my hand further forward and put meat in front of muzzle. So yeah, I think that's it.
Or grab that can.
Yeah, or grab that can.
Hey, look, sometimes these things happen.
Get a little warm.
It happened to me once.
All right, Micah, let's talk about yours.
All right. So I brought a few samples here. This is probably the main workhorse that I run here at camp all the time.
What brand is that?
So all my guns are built. I built all my guns
Okay.
As a gunsmith. I'm confident in my ability to make this thing work. So it is a Palmetto lower. Again, I run this here for the most part. This is not a life-saving gun. This is more of a teaching gun. And I got their little no steppies on snake lower because I thought it was funny. And so I bought that back when lowers used to be like $35. So it's just for funsies. It is a 14.5-inch pinned and welded upper receiver. I think also Palmetto State upper. It is a Midwest Industries rail and a Roscoe Manufacturing Bloodline barrel. I like to experiment with a lot of stuff. I like to try a lot of things out. That's one of the nice things about being here is that I can, buy a bunch of stuff, try it out, see if it works, see if it doesn't work. We're able to then have that sort of background to be able to talk to students. So currently it has a Lantac titanium nitride coated bolt in there. I am not a fan.
Okay.
I prefer a nickel boron bolt. So in my actual real world guns, all nickel boron.
Okay.
It looks cool. It's gold and it's freaking shiny. But that's about it. Actually, when I took it out, even just as soon as I took it out of the packaging, it felt like sandpaper. It was really, really rough. Yeah. Versus the nickel boron is super, super smooth. Oh. I run all of my lowers, regardless of whether or not like what metal they're made out of, they are set up exactly the same way. Yeah. So Radian charging handles, Radian safety selectors, KNS non-rotating pins, Geisley SSAE triggers, the Bravo company grip. This just happens to be the super sweet Wilson Combat one they had out for a little while. Okay. So a little extra bougie on there. And then a Magpul buttstock on here. When it comes to the upper, it's going to be based on what I need it to do. So this setup is currently with an LPBO and an offset red dot. This is the 6 Hour Tango 6, 1-10 by 34. It is a second focal plane. They do make a first focal plane, but this is a second focal plane. The Trijicon RMR 2.0, so it's the LED one. It's not the adjustable.
Okay.
It's the self-dimming. And then everything sits in the Badger Ordnance Condition 1 scope mount. My light it's an Arasaka Defense light on a CAC or Knights Armament Co. Mount. It has the Malkoff head on it. So again, because of how this rifle is set up, this is the long gun. I'm going to reach out and touch things. I need a very, very high candela light. So this throws a very, very focused beam really far away. So this is not something to be clearing houses with. This is not a CQC gun. This is out in the open, reach out and touch. And I need my light to be able to do what my gun can do. It is currently set up with a titanium OSS, or now Huxworks suppressor. I really like the Huxworks. They were kind of the first ones in the game to do the low back pressure suppressors, right? So we all know as soon as we throw a suppressor on, we're really increasing all that gas blowback coming into the gun. All my guns are set up with adjustable gas blocks anyway, but it's not necessarily as important when you have a low back pressure suppressor on there. It's a Superlative Arms adjustable gas block. This is just the regular. So this is actually the other two pieces of the Magpul kit that Nick has on his little gun there. That's the one. It comes in a 3-piece kit.
Yeah,
and
that's
the
I only
one
use 2
piece.
pieces.
Yeah, so I don't use that piece. I just use this little nub, just like Mongo was saying. It's just an index. It's just an index for me to get to where I need to get to. Again, this only just has the temporary on the light switch. This is not a permanent on-off, and it's sitting in a cloud defense mount. These smaller pressure switches don't have a mount. They're like, oh, just Velcro it on there. Like, yep, we're not doing that. Okay. So it is a cloud defensive mount on there. And then again, the Faro Concepts 2-point slingster. Okay. I think we all run 2-point slingster.
I think you had the slingster. I think I have like the naked slingster.
The
or
slim,
something.
yeah. Yours is the slim, so mine has a little extra padding. I'm a sissy and I like to be comfortable, so that's why that sits on there. But again, the adjustable sling on there as well. A minimal amount of training with a 2-point sling, and you can do everything that you can do with a single point and then more.
I've experimented with all of them. I've experimented with single point. I've experimented with 3-point slings for a few years.
Oh my God. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I wanted to try it out. Yeah. So I wanted to see what it would be like. I think I ran that for almost 2 years of 3-point. And then I went to the 2-point sling, and the 2-point sling is just so much better than everything.
And then these are little panels here. This is from Slate Back Industries. I like it on there. It just gives me, this handguard is super narrow, so it just gives me a little bit more texture, like right where my hand lines up on the rail. So that's the main workhorse for here.
Okay.
And then what's also nice about being an FFL and an SOT is you get to play with fun stuff. So this is the upper off of my actual work gun. This is the one that I trust my life to.
Okay.
This is an Aero Precision 10.5-inch upper. Again, that nickel boron bolt inside here. I can't remember who makes this barricade stop, but again, it is just an index for me here. But then I can also, it's textured, so I can smash this against a wall or whatever and kind of brace off of that. This is another Arasaka Defense light, but this one, because it's a shorty, it's not as bright as, they're both still, I think, 800 plus lumens, but the candela is way less on this one.
Right.
So it's more of that floodlight versus the spotlight. This is a Unity Tactical hot button. I'm just now kind of getting into these. I really like this because it doesn't take up a whole lot of real estate, and I get momentary and I get permanent on.
Okay.
It does change your grip a little bit because you're not pressing your thumb down. So you have to kind of roll your hand over more onto the rail. So it's a little bit different of a grip. And I'm just now starting to work with that.
Okay.
EXPS 2.0. This is the green one. I totally bought into the hype. And they're like, oh, green, the contrast is better.
Oh,
no,
okay.
it's not. No, it doesn't. It's just green, and I got suckered in.
I think there's data out there though that says that your eyes pick up blue first, but like for environmental things, like blue isn't very effective outdoors, and then green is quicker than red.
Okay.
But of the three, like blue, green, and red, like There's science out there that I've read. I mean, I didn't come up with it, but
Yeah. Again, no goggles, so this is not the MBG one.
Yeah, for sure.
And then it sits on a Unity fast riser. And then this is the new EOTech 5X magnifier, also on the Unity. And I really like these. They've been out for a little while now, but the nice thing about these is that it flips your magnifier back down in line. So there's nothing hanging off the side. There's no obstructions. Everything works the same way as it should. You just gotta be really careful. Like you will pinch the shit.
Really?
out
I
of
like
your
that. I
fingers
like
in
the
this little
setup,
seam
yeah.
right here. So what I've gotten to do now is from here, I'll actually just come up and then flip it and then brace off the dot to flip it back up. Because I started to do it from here.
And you're catching your fingers.
Oh my God. You'll only do it once. You'll only do it once.
So did you have to raise your EOTech? And what riser did you use?
So they're both, so these are both.
So that's one unit
Unity.
then?
No,
sorry.
it's two mounts. So it's a Unity tactical riser, and then it's interesting because it's backwards, right? So where you would normally put a riser on your magnifier to raise it up, because it sits on top now, you just take the riser away and it sits it higher.
Okay.
So now everything is in line, and when I flip it down, it's where it needs to go. The 5X, I caved in, and 3X was
That's a 5X?
okay. This is a 5X magnifier. Yeah, so it's halfway between nothing and my LPBO.
Okay.
I can run this a lot faster, and depending on how you zero your rifle, that Battlefield Zero, a 5X is phenomenally fast and accurate, and it gets me where I need to go.
Okay.
Versus having to deal with the troubles of a magnified optic with that eye relief that you're dealing with. It's not always, I don't always need it. 9 times out of 10, I'm just going to be running the dot, right? And if you zero it properly and you know your holdovers, you're good out to, we've seen it here, right?
Yeah.
We get students out to
400,
400 yards
on
a 7-inch barrel with a dot.
With a dot.
So how much do I really need that 5X, right? But it's really nice to have it on there. This one also has an OSS mount. So this is just the blast mitigation device. So there's not actually any baffles or anything in here.
So that's just causing what is that doing?
So the rail, this is a 10.5-inch barrel, but it's a 12-inch rail, so that I can have more real estate to actually put my hand on. And
So it's pushing all the gas forward and not out towards your hand.
So if I shot this like this, it would blow this rail completely apart.
I see it now.
So then this just goes on over the top. Let's reverse thread. And then that just sits on there. So it lets me, I can keep my hand all the way up here, not have to worry about it. It directs all that gas forward. And if I want to just throw this can on there, I just pull this off and throw my OSS can back on there.
How loud is that?
Oh, there's no sound suppression at all.
I know.
It's just as loud as a 10
louder,
inch.
right?
Not really. The nice thing is that it directs it away
from
like
you?
we've all been on the line
Yeah.
with those students who are shooting them little shorty barrels and boom, it's like making your snot run out of your mouth.
Yeah.
This will save you from that, so it pushes all that concussion forward. So this is the main work. And then again, Radian, this is my 4th of July. I won this set, the 4th of July set a million years ago.
Nice. How long? 9 years ago, you said?
Years ago. It wasn't that long ago. And then this one is just for funsies. This is actually my UTM upper. So we train with UTMs here.
We used to.
Yeah, I know. We used to, right? So super cheap, little True Glow red dot. So if it gets blasted out, I'm not worried about replacing a $600 EOTech. These nice little flip up clear lenses. So it actually helps protect the red dot from paint rounds coming through here. Some flip up irons, some cheap ass little ergo. This is just to play around with.
Yeah.
Strictly for UTMs. Again, so this is a Surefire RC2 Mini, quick detach.
Yeah.
And I have, again, the same blast mitigation that goes the Surefire one that can go
What's
on
the
there.
barrel length on that one?
This is a 7-inch.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was like, it looks even smaller than that. I was like, that thing is
I mean,
tiny.
there's not this. Yeah. This,
That's tiny.
yeah. It's just but again, still ambi, Radian, everything on there. Adjustable gas block. Not that you need it, but with a can, it helps, especially.
Which backup are those?
These are the UTG flip ups. So they're not, you got to like push the little button and then flip it up. And this one's backwards because I need the rail space.
You need the space,
Right? So if it folds down, it's like, man, that's going to take up my whole freaking rail just
put
for.
your hand,
Yeah, right. Like, where am I going to put anything? Like, how do I hold this.
That's
which again
that's
is
good because like you see on my shorty, like I have to leave my front sight flipped
Up
up
the whole way.
up because I have there's nothing else
Right.
for me to grip.
And it doesn't make it any less effective. You just
Right.
have to remember, like, oh, if I'm zeroing my irons, that up is actually down and down is actually up. You'll only work it once or twice. Where you're like, oh, that's right. That's right. Yeah. So this is just the work UTM.
Okay.
Again, so if I break it, it's it's a throwaway. It's not a big deal.
All right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. That covers everything for you. So I forgot to break down one of our range guns. I said I was going to, but I forgot. I apologize.
You're not missing a whole lot.
You're not. You're not. So I was going to bring down one of the range guns just to show you. That was really loud. How cheap you could go if you really wanted to. So we've got some Ruger 5.56 ARs that we use for our range guns. So if a student needs to borrow guns, anything like that, or we use them for UTMs in case a student brings a rifle that UTM bolts don't work with, or if somebody's gun breaks, whatever, we have four or five,
of them,
something like
yeah.
that. I bought all of those Rugers for I think under $500.
How long ago did you buy them?
Oh God.
A decade?
3 years, 4 years ago.
Oh, not that long.
No, not too long ago.
4 years.
3-4 years, yeah.
20-ish classes a year.
Yes.
Out in that Connex, getting dirt, sand, rain, UTMs.
And you guys know how often we clean them.
Oh, and not to mention,
Never.
not to mention, we use them for
What? Yeah,
rifle
Scott uses them to beat
fighting,
each other up with.
rifle retention, rifle disarms. I mean,
Yeah.
those things are beat. To
So they
snot.
they probably get more use than most people's like safe queens, and they're still. I mean, look, yeah, you're gonna have to replace some trigger pins every now and again.
Yeah.
You're gonna have to replace a buffer every now and again.
That wasn't from the trigger pins were not from the Rugers. That was from a cheap piece of shit rifle that someone bought for me. But yeah,
cheap piece of shit,
Yeah,
like across
exactly.
the board.
yeah. So yeah, we've had to replace a few things on them, but not much. And like I said, we clean them whenever they stop working and they they start causing malfunctions. Then we might clean them. But yeah, so I mean, worst case scenario, you could go out buy one of those for $500. I'm not sure what price they're going for these days, but I know I paid
About $800 or $900. you
Are they
can
up to?
get-
Are they
yeah.
up to there? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I know I paid under $500 for all of those.
You might get them on like a Black Friday special for $6.99, or you can get them like used at Cabela's or something like that for $400 or
Yeah,
$500.
and when I bought them, I got a lifetime warranty. So I don't know how that works. So I've never tried it. I mean, you know what
Is your
I'm going
warranty
through with.
me because I'm the one that keeps fixing them.
No, not at all. Not at all.
Okay, just checking.
Yeah.
that is the warranty.
Yeah. They do have a lifetime warranty through Right to Bear Gun Shop, whatever. I forgot. I don't know who the warranty actually comes from. If it comes from them, or if I believe it comes from the company that they got them from.
Okay,
But I was very impressed.
very rare.
Yeah, that's what I said. So I was like, I'll take 5. Yeah. So if you're trying to get started on this kind of stuff, you can buy, again, if you're limited on your budget, you can just go out and buy a cheap, rifle for, maybe these days, $600-800. If you want to spend a lot more, that's why we went through every attachment that we have on our rifles. We named out brands. The reason we name out brands is because that's what people usually ask for. They want to know exactly what we are running. It doesn't mean it's the best thing out there. It's just what we prefer. That's on our rifles. So
My lower from Palmetto State actually was one of their blemished lowers, and I've bought 3 or 4 of them, and you get them for $110, $120 typically off their website.
Yeah.
And I've never had a blemish that would prohibit it from going bang when I pull the trigger.
Yeah,
Ever.
it's usually a scratch, or the paint color doesn't match, or the finish isn't quite right, and they can't sell them as new, and they'll sell them as a blemish.
Right.
Yeah.
So again, hopefully that answers your guys' questions for the people that are searching for a carbine, an AR style rifle. Take our advice. We've been doing this for a long time. So next, we'll be bringing on our first guest student. We have got multiple guest students that want to be on the show tonight. We're actually filming this in front of a live student audience.
Oh,
I think there's
studio.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There's 9 people in here staring at us.
Wow.
There's just
all you're supposed to have
but they're being
cards
so
that say
quiet.
that.
They're doing a great job. They're doing great. So we're gonna bring on our first guest student and start getting into questions. All right. So our first guest student. Okay, we have Dave Olsen with us.
How's it going?
Welcome, Dave. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for
Glad
having
to see you
me.
again.
It's great to be back.
Not your first rodeo, right?
No, I've been here. This is my 3rd class.
It's awesome.
All right.
It's awesome.
All right, Dave, hit us with your question, sir.
So my question is, being we just went through with what you guys are all running is what would you say to directing someone whether to buy the expensive like Black Rain Ordnance, something like that, fully built gun, buying a cheaper gun and putting all your preferred accessories on it, or like you do, Mike, building from the ground up?
I would say first, what's it for, right? I mean, I think that each gun should have a purpose, right? What are you going to use it for? And then that would be the first question I would ask.
Okay.
I'm not sure about you.
I mean, for myself, I may ask that question, but I myself, I always buy. I don't build. I don't have the knowledge. Yes, I've been through armorer courses and stuff like that, but I still don't do it enough that I would trust myself to build something that I'm basically possibly going to save my life, save my family's life.
Yeah.
So I buy the rifles that are pre-built. Yes, I may add attachments onto them, but I don't modify. Like I don't think I've ever modified a trigger, which maybe I should, maybe I shouldn't. I don't know. I've never done it. Okay, but I've never modified a trigger. The only modifications I usually make is putting a bad paint job on them, possibly, or hiring someone to do
Even a worse
Cerakote job, and then add all the other stuff that we went over. So I prefer buying rifles that are already built. We've seen a lot out here of students coming out with rifles that either they built or had someone else built, and usually those are the rifles that we see fail.
Break.
Yeah, they break out here. They can't handle what we put them through. Usually, if it's a pre-built, that they bought it off the shelf, those we see break less. So, Micah, you go into your spiel.
Okay, so again, right, like I answer every question. Oh, it depends. Something that comes along with building is it's going to require an initial investment in tools and the right equipment to actually put a rifle together, right? I'm not sitting there in my living room with a Leatherman putting a rifle together. I'm going to need a vice block. I know it's probably where you're at, which is why I fix all the ranch guns.
Yes.
What's a
yes,
Leatherman?
I don't.
Exactly.
What's a Leatherman?
So
I know what that is.
It's going to require a little bit of upfront money to get the things that you need to get to make sure that you put it together properly. I encourage everyone who owns a carbine or who wants to own a carbine or go out and shoot a carbine, at some point, build your own. I think it can only make you a better shooter and understanding what your weapon system, how it works, how it goes together, right? And working on your own stuff. At some point, you may not have a gunsmith nearby. You may need to be able to fix this on the fly and understand why and what's going on with it.
Mike is never going to leave me, so I'm good. I'm good there.
I can't quit you. But with the buying off the shelf, it's the price isn't just coming from the parts on the rifle, right? You think about a company like Bravo Manufacturing, Daniel Defense. How much R&D do they have into these guns, right? They do hundreds of thousands of rounds of torture testing on hundreds of thousands of different parts and pieces. So they have that budget and that capacity to find out what works, right? There's a very specific reason why the Daniel Defense Mark 18 barrel is 10.3 inches and not 10.5 inches, right? They have done all the research and run this gun, and that is the best configuration that they got to that met the standards that they needed to meet for that contract. So along with that price, you get all of that inherent research and development and the skilled craftsmanship of when it comes to put it together, which again, right, any manufacturer can have a bad day. You make 100,000 rifles, there's gonna be one that doesn't work sometimes, right? You maybe get that gas block crooked. You maybe the port isn't drilled out just right on the barrel. It's gonna happen. So a lot of the times when you see these people like, oh, I had a friend who this rifle went down, it was terrible, fuck Daniel Defense. Okay, that's one rifle out of 100,000 rifles that they built that year. You're gonna get that. It's gonna happen. But I think that's the biggest thing is that if you're gonna trust your life to it and you do not have that skill set and confidence to build your own rifle, it's one thing to build a range toy, but if you're building something that you're trusting your life to, I would buy off the shelf every single time. Now, I've been through armorers courses and schools and all kinds of other things. I am confident in my capabilities to build a rifle that I would trust my life to. But for your average everyday person, yeah, just buy it, off the shelf from somewhere. Yeah.
All right.
Right on.
Hey, let me ask this then. So how do you feel about like interchanging brands for like lowers and uppers?
So here's the thing with that is an upper and a lower are just chunks of metal that hold other chunks of metal together, right? Unless there is something specific. So Nick's Shield Arms is a
talked
very
about
good
that,
case.
yep.
That is a specific feature built into that lower receiver, right? If you want that Radian, or the Lantac Raven, whatever, that's got the ambi, everything set up just the way you want it, that is a specific brand feature of that rifle. If you're just looking for an off-the-shelf AR, yeah, there are some brand names out there. I think Anderson has probably got one of the worst reputations in the industry. You get what you pay for to an extent, but is there that much of a difference between a $500 lower receiver and that $85 Palmetto State receiver? Sure. Is it 10 times the amount of money difference? Probably not, unless you're getting that specific feature that you want from there. You're like, I want that because it has the built-in folder. Then it's worth paying that little bit of extra money for it. Otherwise, here's the thing. There are maybe 3 or 4 manufacturers like milling centers that build upper and lower receivers. You think Aero Precision is making their own lowers? Nope. They're calling up this manufacturer, send me 100,000 lowers with my logo laser engraved on it. They get them from the same places, right? And then because they put the big A on it, put a cool little paint job on it, put some, stickers or whatever, boom, I can sell it now for a huge markup and huge profit. There are only a few manufacturers out there, like actual manufacturers, that mill these things from chunks of aluminum. Yeah, so at that point, you're just paying for a lot of it. It's just the brand name.
No. We're good.
Right on. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So biggest thing for buying off the shelf is just do your homework and kind of know what you're buying. Don't just go buy something that looks pretty.
Yeah, for the most part, and have your budget, right? So you look at like Nick's clone here with the Comp M4 and the mag. Just those optics would cost more than what most people's rifles will cost. Yeah. Right? I mean, an Aimpoint Comp M4 now probably still retails for almost $900. Well, why? Well, because I can submerge it up to 300 meters. Last time I checked, I'm not doing any submersible exfills or infills into anywhere. I'm taking it to the range. It's going in my fluffy little bag, and it's going back in the gun safe. Do I need that? No. But do I get the cool points when I pull that out at the range? And everyone's like, oh, look at that. Yeah, there's something to be said for that. But understanding where your money is going and what you're paying for, and it's up to you. Is that value there for you? Do you want those cool guy points? So when I slap my gun down, I think we had a student come, he's like, I want, every time I go to a class, I want to pull my gun out of the bag, and everyone's like, holy shit, look at that guy's gun. I'm like, that's great until you get on the line and you can't hit the fucking broadside of a barn with an $8,000 AR. Good for you. Nice gun.
Yeah. And we've seen a lot of that out here.
A
where
lot
guys
of it.
Come
A
on here
lot
and
of
we're
it.
like, wow, look at that gear. Then he starts shooting. We're like,
All matchy, black multicam, everything. I'm like,
yeah. Then they can't shoot.
good for you, bro. We see where you spent your money, and it wasn't training.
Right.
Yeah. All right, good, Dave?
Yeah.
Hi,
Awesome.
Dave.
I appreciate it, guys.
I'm in. Thanks for
Thanks
being
for
on the
having me on,
show.
man.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have a good day.
Man.
All right, you guys. We have our next student guest on. Okay, so we have Cameron Smallwood. Thanks for coming on, buddy.
Well, thanks for letting me come
See my
on.
hand? See there? Shake there. Thanks, buddy.
Oh, there you go.
Thanks. All right, so what questions do
Okay,
you have for
I
us?
had 2 questions for you. The first was, what's the big deal with floating handguard versus a standard handguard? I know most handguards out there are floating now, but to me, you've already got a gas block and a gas system on there, and so you're already messing with the harmonics of the barrel. So why go with the floating handguard versus spending $20 or $30 to get a standard handguard?
Okay.
Micah, go for it.
Yeah. So when we talk about a floated handguard or a free floated barrel, basically that means, right, there's a nut that sits inside here that screws down, and that basically holds my barrel to my upper receiver. That is the only thing that is touching my barrel, right, as opposed to my handguard. So some of the older school rifles, you'll have like a plate that clamps over the back here and then clamps on, and it's 2 little pieces. The biggest thing with that is the more I deviate this barrel, right? So you can see I can push this barrel around, and it's moving inside that handguard. So anytime that I squeeze my handrail or push it against a barricade or whatever, if it's not free floated, it's actually going to change the point of impact of that round. So while yes, I have a gas system on there and it's going to impact the harmonics of the barrel, so will a suppressor, but it just affects it the one time, the one way. So that is now the baseline harmonics of the barrel is how it's set up with my gas block, right? It's going to change, and that's when you get a point of impact shift when you put a suppressor on. But the big thing is that any type of grip or twist or torque or press against something is actually going to move that barrel. And because this barrel isn't attached to my optic, this isn't moving. So this is now moving, right? So if this moves 3 degrees to the left, but my dot hasn't moved because it's attached to my upper receiver, now when I take that shot at 300, 400, 500 meters, it is not where it's supposed to be. So that's the big benefit of having that free-floated handguard or free-floated barrel.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
Does that deviation increase as the barrel heats up if it's not free floating?
Yeah, so that's more in terms of barrel profile, right? So the thinner the barrel you have, these pencil barrels and things of that nature, the more rounds you put through them, the hotter they're going to get. And yes, you will get some round deviations. And that's where like Hansen profiles, and there's so many barrel profiles nowadays.
Yeah.
But the pencil barrels are really the one. Yeah, they're lightweight and they're great, but you put a mag through them and you're going to have some issues with some accuracy. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So does that answer your question?
Yeah, thank you for covering that. I'd always wondered about that because you can get a standard handguard for like $30. It's pretty easy to, just go cheap.
Yep, it is.
Yeah. All right. So what was your second question?
Okay, my second question was about suppressors. You mentioned earlier in the podcast that you were waiting for a couple of suppressors in suppressor jail.
Yep.
Is it worth the effort and money to do the suppressor?
You guys want
I'll take this one first. So I currently have the one suppressor on here. I have 2 other suppressors on a couple of the range guns. I have 2 other suppressors that, like I said, they're in suppressor jail right now. So my new suppressors, one is just for a 22 suppressor for my 22 caliber SIG. I purely bought it for, I don't know, cool guy factor. I was at the gun shop. He's like, "Oh, check this out." I was like, "Oh my God." He goes, "Go ahead and shoot it." And it was just, poof, poof. I was like,
I could shoot it in my house.
so cool. Yeah. So I was like, this could be, my assassin gun. Whatever. So it was, so with that, that's the only reason I got it, So I was like, yeah, this is cool. How often will I use it? Well, I don't know. I mean, they're nice for plinking out here and stuff like that, where you're not spending a ton of money on your 9mm ammo and that sort of thing. But that's why I got that suppressor. It was just a cool thing. All right. My other suppressor, that's different. So I got that suppressor. What it's a Silencer Co. What did I get? I don't even remember what I got.
I'll have to think about it.
Okay. I think it's a Silencer Co.
It is.
Yeah. But I've got it so it fits my 4570 lever action Marlin. I got it so it fits my 308, my Ruger Precision 308 precision rifle, and then I can also throw it on. These guys I have to switch out the adapter for it, but I can put it on any of my 5.56 rifles as well. So I bought that one so I could be universal and I could use it on all of my different weapon systems. Do I need it? Not really. I mean, I don't need it, but having it as an option, so I didn't have to run Ear Pro or anything like that. I like that option, being able to have that. So, whatever situations that you may find yourself in, I just want to be able to have that option of being able to throw that on there. Does it make it silent so people can't hear you? No, it's not like the movies. It doesn't do that. But at least it brings the decibels down enough that, I mean, some of them, I like with that suppressor there, even with, I would still need Ear Pro with that. That is still
Not
high enough
safe.
decibels, yes, that it would still hurt my ears and cause hearing damage if I don't run Ear Pro with that. That's why I've got some other one, the other suppressors coming, but it gives me, an option. So, yeah.
I would say again, what's it for, right? If it's your truck gun and you're gonna go into, an active shooter situation and get in a gunfight, then maybe it makes sense to have that suppressor on. If it's a range gun and I'm out here and I'm wearing my ears anyway, then
It's like, do you, so if you
What do I
have,
need it for?
if you have a truck gun, do you have ear pro with you? So if you had to deploy that weapon and use it, are you going to be able to hear anything?
That's it.
Or is it just going to be, you can't hear anything?
That's it. 100%. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's just going to matter. So
If you have ever shot an AR
Inside.
without a suppressor, even outside with no ear pro on,
In a hallway. Oh my God. It hurts.
holy shit.
So I did this. So my little 7.5 inch over here. Okay, so I was zeroing it. Didn't have the suppressor on. So I was going back and forth. 3 shots, went back, check it. All right, make my adjustments. 3 shots, been back. Went back, make my adjustments. At one of those times, I failed to put my ear pro back on before I took my next shot. Okay, and that short of a barrel, no ear pro. I sat there and I'm like, do I have blood running
you
out of
sick to your stomach.
my ears? It hurt so bad. And my hearing was off the rest of the day, even into the next day. I could tell a difference in my hearing because I fired one shot with that, okay, without the suppressor on, no ear pro.
Yeah. So again, is it worth it? Okay, that's going to be a subjective statement. Each person is going to have to make that decision on their own. Personally, I feel the benefits of a suppressor far outweigh the limitations or the inconvenience of having to deal with the paperwork and get it done. And here's the thing is that it's not that hard. It really isn't, right? It's a Form 1 on, you can either do it digitally or you can do it manually through snail mail. You get some passport photos and you go get your fingerprints done. It's $200. Oh, no, I'm on a guess what? You're all in a fucking registry. Don't fool yourselves. All right? Don't think, like, oh, the government's not ever going to know about me. Sure. 1, you're not that important. And 2, it's not that big of a deal. Okay? It's not that hard. Yes, the wait time is inconvenient. Right now, I think we're looking, I just did a guy's, it was just over 8 months digitally. If you do it through snail mail, yeah, you're looking at 12 to 15 months. And yeah, it's just got to sit in jail, right? It goes to your SOT and it stays in their possession until your tax stamp comes through. And then you get your paperwork and then you're good to go. And there's some other considerations that come along with that as well. But I think the hoops that you have to jump through are minimal, absolutely minimal. I think people make too big of a deal about it. And it's just nicer. It's just a more pleasant experience to shoot. You'll get out there and shoot more. There's that cool guy factor when you go to the range. Precision rifle, forget about it. I will not shoot a precision rifle without a suppressor. I just went to the range with one of our other instructors and forgot my suppressor at home. I pouted like a little baby and wouldn't shoot. I let him shoot his guns, my other guns that I brought the suppressors for, but my other gun that I was like, I'm going to shoot this gun because we got a precision rifle class coming up.
Really?
Didn't shoot it. Sat there and cried like a little baby because I'm like, it's obnoxious. I don't want to because now I'm spoiled, right? As an SOT, I don't have to pay the tax stamp, so I don't have to wait. I wait 4 days and I get my suppressor, but that comes along with some other issues.
Right, as an FFL.
Yeah, as an FFL and SOT. I personally, I think it's worth it. I think the benefits far outweigh the cost of the suppressor. And like Nick was saying, right, you can get a 30 cal can and put it on the majority of your guns. Yeah. If you're just going to have the one, as soon as you buy one, you're like, oh, that's cool. Let me get another one. Let me try it. Let me get this little shorty one. Let me get this flow through titanium, quick detach, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, and then it's good luck.
Okay. That's Mike is like for me. I've had that one. For
Whatever you
years.
just told us how many. Like, this one in jail. I got this one. This is for my 22. It's super cool. It sounds like John Wick. Oh, I got this one, that one. We've all heard it. We've all heard it. That's my.
I'm gonna tell you. I'll say. I'm done after this one, but we'll see.
Got 2 of his suppressors waiting in suppressor jail at my house.
At his house. Yeah.
So it sounds like it's dangerous then to get into suppressors because you can't just have one.
Financially.
Potato chip. It's potato chip.
Yeah.
I mean, I had just the one for a really long time. I had just my 130 cal can that went on my 308 bolt gun. I'm like, oh, I can put this on an AR? Okay, let me try that out. And then I bought a pistol suppressor, and that's a whole nother freaking.
I mean, it's like with all this stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like you buy one rifle, then you're like, now me and Mike were just talking today. We're like, after the last podcast, we're like, dude, we were talking about getting
Way
a
down
9
the rabbit
mil.
hole about that 9
Yeah,
mil.
a 9 mil rifle for home defense, 0 to like 10 yards. We're both like, yeah, I think we're gonna buy that.
I got like
next.
3 of them in my shopping cart right now.
I have my own.
Yeah.
To include like
It just happens. It happens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
the
All right, good.
lifestyle change.
Yeah, I appreciate the help. Thank you.
All right.
Yeah, happy to help.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Yeah, appreciate you coming on. All right, so we're welcoming our next student guest on, Guy Rogers. Thanks for coming on the show, sir.
Welcome, Guy. Nice to have
Thank
you.
you. After a wonderful day on the range today.
It was.
Yes.
It was gorgeous out there.
Beautiful day.
All right, so tell us, what questions do you have?
So as I look around at each one of the different rifles that we went through in the beginning, I saw very few with only simple optics. Everybody else had some type of flip-up magnifier versus a scope. And I wonder if you'd talk a little bit about why you chose to do that.
Okay. So you're talking about like the basic dot compared to like the LPVO, that he
LPVO
has?
versus
Okay.
a flip-up 5X magnifier versus a 3-inch magnifier.
Yeah. So with mine, like I said, I've got the 3X magnifier on my 16-inch rifle. That is the only reason I have that on there is because that is my longer barrel. So that is the rifle that if I'm going to go on a longer range, if what I'm training that day or mission-wise, whatever, is going to call for maybe a longer range shot, that's going to be the rifle that I grab. All right. You can see all of my shorter barrel. I've got my 10.3 inch over there, right? My Mark 18. And then I've got my 7.5 inch here. There's no magnifiers on those because that's not what they're designed for. So that's why I don't have any of that on there. You also see on mine, I do not run any of the LPVOs on mine. I don't prefer them. With anything, there's pros and cons. With what I usually train with the more close quarters, I do a lot of the CQB stuff. Those don't work well in a CQB setting. It's hard to pick up the optic on those. And we saw a big increase in popularity, especially on those when it came to the transgender active shooter.
In
Okay?
Tennessee, yeah.
Yes.
Push LPVO.
Push the LPVO. Push the LPVO. So we saw a lot of even my buddy that owns a gun shop was pushing those on a lot of the police departments. And I told him, like, are you giving them an offset red dot on those? And he goes, no, they don't want to pay for those. And I was like, dude, so he was running on the popularity of those to sell those based off that video.
Well, and how far away was that guy when he actually made that shot?
It wasn't even that far.
Not that far
Not
at
that
all.
far.
Like 35 yards,
I mean,
40 yards.
I understand why they said push the LPVO because
Yes.
they didn't know how far the shot was going to be.
Right. And I think the point guy had a shotgun. And I don't know what
There was
kind
a
of-
shotgun and there was a guy with a
Pistol
pistol.
and the-
Yes.
Right, but I'm pretty
Yeah,
sure
so-
point was shotgun, and you don't know.
Yeah, it was a smart move. It was very good. They did a great job with that clear. Great job. But we saw a lot of popularity pop up, especially after that. I saw a lot of it with him pushing the PD and stuff like that. But I told him, like, you're setting these guys up for failure based off when they're going to use these. It's like, what's the purpose of these? Are they only taking long shots? No, a patrol rifle, they have to be used. They have to use them for everything. Everything. It can't just be set up for that. So that's why I told him, I go, if you're going to put one on, cool, but at least put an offset red dot on there. So in case they get into a CQB setting, yeah, so they can go through. Because I see guys that go through my shoot house all the time with those optics, and they can't find it. They have to point shoot, which you can inside of a structure. It's usually you can, but you may enter a bigger room that you've got to take a longer shot. Yeah. So there's, again, like I said, there's pros and cons to all of that stuff, and it's going to really matter on what you're using that rifle for. And whatever you're using it for, that's going to be the type of optic that you put on. That's why on my 16-inch barrel, that's why that's the only rifle that you see with a 3X magnifier on it, because the other ones, I've shot the Mark 18, I've shot that out to 500 yards with just the EOTech, with no magnification on it at all. So I know I can reach out pretty far with that without magnification, but am I going to do that with that rifle? Probably not. Probably not. Okay, so you guys.
I think, too, there was that other police action where the guy's got his coffee.
he
he
puts his
sets
coffee down. Yeah.
He sets his coffee
And he
down,
does that,
pulls
he
his
gets that
rifle out,
shot.
and he's just got a red dot, and was like 104 yards, one shot.
I don't remember how far it was. It was pretty
It
far.
was
Yeah.
far away.
Yeah.
So the big thing that the LPBO buys you is PID, right? I can zoom in at 800 yards, 500 yards. You said with the EOTech.
Yep.
It was a piece of steel.
It's a piece of steel.
I knew it was out there.
Yeah.
It was bright white, painted against a dark, brown
Yeah.
background.
Yeah.
Can I take this shot? Absolutely. You just got to know your holdover.
Yeah.
I mean, I can hit a target at 200 yards with a 9mm pistol as long as I know where to put my dot.
Yeah.
But
About 100 feet above it, and then just let it go.
But PID, right? So I can see what's going on with that 10x magnification. I get way more information. And I think just like Nick said, is what this rifle is set up for. What's the capabilities, right? That little 7-inch shorty that's just for UTMs, it would be pointless to have an LPBO on there. Absolutely pointless. Because that round isn't doing what I need it to do out at those distances that this magnification allows me to look to, which is where that 5X comes in. It's a really nice, handy, middle of the road solution where I can get that PID if I need it. If I don't, I just tuck it away. It doesn't cost me a whole lot. It doesn't weigh nearly as much as an LPBO in and mount with a red dot. So the EOTech and the magnifier, all the mounts and everything weigh less than just the LPBO and the mounts. This is my second attempt at getting into the LPBO game, so I'm forcing myself to learn this and to run it because we see a lot of students who do run this. So I need to be proficient with this so I can demonstrate to students and talk about it and speak intelligently to these things.
I'll just send him to Micah. I'm not putting one on my gun.
Right, and so that's really the main reason. Again, this is a teaching tool. This is not my everyday gun. My everyday gun just has that 5X on there, and it's tucked away because the 1 or 2 times that I need it, I've got it. Otherwise, it's not in my way, and I'm just working with this teeny tiny little red dot offset and fucking up everything else that I'm doing. The primary function is that dot, and if I need magnification, I can just throw it on there.
Good.
Scott?
I don't need it. So I just use the EOTech and I have the magnifier there. If for whatever I'm doing, I do need it here. Maybe the running gun. I'm 44. My eyes suck nowadays. It's just helpful, and it's there if I need it. Yeah.
All right. Did that answer your question, Guy?
Awesome. Thanks.
All right, sir.
Appreciate it. Thanks for
Appreciate you
having
coming
me
on the show. Yeah. All right, you guys. So we're brought on our next student guest. Welcome, Wade Everett. Thank you for being on the show, sir.
Welcome, Abe. Nice to have you.
Good to see you again.
Always good to
I
see
know,
you guys
right?
again.
Another returner, right?
Yeah, another veteran.
Third time.
Third time.
Third
All
time.
right.
All right, sir. So what question do you have for us today?
Question today is about level 3 retention holders especially in law enforcement. Not a lot of outside training for law enforcement unless you seek it yourself. And in your mind, you think you're doing pretty good or pretty fast, but watching guys such as yourselves, and you're like, well, you can time me with a calendar instead of a stopwatch. And my question would be is, with level 3 retention holsters, do you think that, is it a training issue that people are slower on it, or do you think is it a catch-22 between safety and speed?
Okay.
Yeah.
You want
I
to
would
start
love
off?
to, yeah, for sure. I think a couple things. From a law enforcement perspective, number one, retention is a must.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Right? It's a must. I also think, though, that from a law enforcement perspective, you drawing that firearm is a conscious decision, right? So you're getting out of your car, you're approaching a vehicle, you're consciously drawing that firearm.
Well, sometimes not even getting out of the car.
Sometimes not even getting out of the car, but more often than not, for most law enforcement officers that I've had the privilege to train and work with, drawing their firearm is a conscious decision. Right?
So you're saying they're drawing it before the actual fight begins?
No
Is
question.
that what you're saying?
Typically, yes.
Okay.
Right. And so where we see issues with the retention, especially, is when it's not necessarily conscious, but now we're adding that stress, and then it's more sudden. Right. Now I have to get to that gun rather than making that decision to get to the gun. Now I'm trying to do a motion that should be subconscious, but I have to think about it. Right. So, and I don't even think I said that correctly. More importantly, it's like you're approaching a house, an alarm's going off, you get out of your car, you draw your gun, you got your flashlight, you're working your radio, the whole 9 yards, versus then your retention is not an issue because you're consciously thinking, let me get my gun, I know what I'm going to do. It's when you have that ambush or the unexpected attack that, oh shit, I have to get my gun.
Exactly.
That's when the retention becomes a problem for most law enforcement officers. And that's a training problem, right? It's not training enough under stress, right? How often do you qualify with your firearm? Yearly. And when you
yearly.
qualify, are you standing on a firing line with stress?
No. None
Shooting
all.
at a moving target?
Not even.
No. Right? So adding stress to the law enforcement training and making it more frequent would definitely help break those training isms with the sudden need to get to my gun very, very, very quickly. And you can do that at home without any classes as well with your dry fire training.
Correct.
You know, so
I think to add on to that, that's a really good point, and it came up today as well, and it comes up in a lot of classes, is every time you take your gun out of the holster, right, we're always telling you, take your gun out of your holster like you mean it.
Like you mean it.
The same way every single time, right? So it's not like Scott is saying, it's this administrative, get my gun out, get set up to do whatever, and then under stress, I got to get for it. Every time that gun comes out of that holster, it should come out of that holster the exact same way. So even if it's an administrative thing, I'm getting in there, I'm defeating my retention, I've got my gun out. Okay, now we're going to press forward about my day and do what I need to do. So that when it's under stress, it's not any different than it was when I just popped out of my cruiser and had to pull my gun out. I think consistency in your training and consistency in the way that we do things is going to mitigate a lot of that under stress reaction. And I've never had to defeat that retention under stress or quickly because it's always just been this, let me get my gun out, kind of do my thing. Yeah, I think that's one.
obviously you'd have to kind of abbreviate what we do out on the line, right? You're not going to get out of your patrol car on a traffic stop and get all the way out to position 4, you know, but you can get
Correct,
to position
yes.
2 behind your door without anybody seeing you, and
Right.
then, you know, go behind your leg or however you choose to do it when you approach that vehicle, you know, like, or approach that building or whatever you're going to do with that firearm while it's out.
Correct, yes.
Yeah, so again, I was law enforcement for a very short time, but even before law enforcement, I ran a level 3 retention holster. So I ran a Safariland for many years. I trained with it enough that I was no slower with that level 3 retention than I am now with 0 retention on my holster. So yes, a level 3 retention is required and is needed for law enforcement.
Oh, absolutely.
If you are walking around with a gun exposed for people to see and possibly try to take from you, you have to have retention on it. You have to. So like I always ask students when they come in and they have retention on their holster, and I was like, why? You know, like, oh, you know, I don't know, it's the cool holster to buy. You know, I'm like, well, why? You know, why have the YouTube? Why have it? Why have it? Because most of the time we'll see students out here with retention on their holster. They never put their retention back on because they want to be faster. I want to be faster than everybody else, so they don't even train taking that retention off, even though they have it on their gun. And we always give students shit about that. That it's like, hey, if you have retention on your gun, on your holster, then why aren't you using it every time you draw your gun out? That's just what's going to make you better and faster by training it, using it.
And the thing is, the folks these people are watching on YouTube are wearing those level 3s because that's what they're used to.
Their duty.
Or they could be law enforcement that they had. That's their duty.
Prior
Right? I mean,
law
that's what they
enforcement,
have.
their current law
Yeah.
enforcement, their prior SF, their current SF. I mean, they're used to it, right? So when they're running those safari lands, it's because that's what they know. It's not to look cool, right? It's
Right.
you have to as a law enforcement officer.
Yeah.
You got it, right? But you got to start training it under stress. You have to.
No, and I think
the
that's
same way.
huge. You know, we all know, you know, law enforcement doesn't get enough training.
sad.
A lot of it could be, you know, the department's, you know, budgets, all that kind of stuff. You know, with you know, every department's budget's being cut recently and all that sort of thing. But you know, it's great to see law enforcement come out and get training on their own. But those are the guys that do well out there. Are the guys that spend their hard-earned money to go out there to get more advanced training than what their department usually gives them with their yearly qual, which again it has no stress. It's just I understand both ways. Yes, they try to keep it as easy as possible so people can
Lowest common denominator.
pass it. Yeah, but they're not challenging, people, and I think they need to. I think they need to up that level.
Yeah. So I think another way of looking at it too is, and we see this with carbines, we might see this here in the next couple of days, with people manipulating their safety as they bring their rifle up to their face. That's no different than defeating the retention on your holster, right? Working a manual safety on my staccato versus a striker gun, it's no different. It's just something I have to train. Do I get my gun out and like, oh, I'm fumble fucking around with my safety? No, I'm not, because I snap that safety off every single time that gun comes out of that holster to position 2. My carbine, every single time that gun comes up to my face, that safety comes off. As soon as it comes away from my face, that safety comes back on. It's that same mindset. It's just applied to a different switch now. Now it's just the switch on your holster as opposed to the switch on your gun. So I really think it's a mentality thing. I think it's a consistency thing. And especially if it's a mandated piece of gear, sorry, bro, you're going to have to work around that. Figure that shit out. Like, I can sit here and whine about it and cry about it. I'm like, oh, my department sucks and I gotta have this retention holster. Great. That's what I got to deal with. I'm going to spend my time figuring that out as opposed to like bitching and moaning about it. And it's just reps. It's just reps. I think a lot of it is just comes down to just doing it more.
Yeah. I mean, even when I was on the department, very few guys did any dry firing. There was one guy that I worked with that dry fired every time we were about to go on shift. He did 15 draws out of his holster at his locker when we're getting ready to go on a shift. I mean, that was a great example to set that nobody else really followed, that he was getting in those reps before stepping out the door and going on shift.
Well, I think even too, right, like you made the point earlier today where it's like, hey, I'm going to try and run my duty gear. Is your personal gear a retention holster? No, it's not. And we see a lot of that, right, where it's like, fuck this duty gear, I'm not going to train in it. No one likes to do what they don't like to do. We like to do what's easy and what we're good at. So, right? We don't like to do the shit that's hard, but that's the shit we need to work on. So I would encourage you, and again, I think kudos to you again for putting on your duty gear and running it during the class. Like, that's a huge step. A lot of guys won't do that. It's like, that's work shit. I don't want to deal with that. That sucks. Let me get this super fast Gucci holster. Okay?
Because I want to beat everybody.
Right. I want to win class, right? Like, that's not the point. The point is get good with your gear that you trust your life to. You don't trust your life to your range gear. You trust your life to your duty gear.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why, like, when I talk to, like, when we're doing our concealed carry course and stuff like that, or with any pistols, I'm like, what gun do you carry every day with you? It's like, that's the gun you're probably gonna shoot somebody with.
Well,
I'm not good with that gun. Let me bring this big gun and shoot that.
Yeah, let me bring my big gun to concealed carry class. I'm like, dude, is that the gun you carry?
No.
Like, no. Well, why are you bringing this? Oh, because I can shoot it better. No.
I mean, even take it a step further, right? We've had a woman come back to the barracks or the bunkhouse and get her purse because she carried her gun in her purse.
Yeah.
Right? And so we wanted her to work on that draw from her purse. If that's where you carry it, that's where we need to train.
No,
right?
we don't recommend it, but
We don't.
if that's what she's gonna do, then hey,
When I
let's
think she
train her on
changed
it.
after having done that for half the day, she's like, this is bullshit.
Yeah, I can't get to it. And so
She
she
did.
came up with a different solution
Yeah.
for herself. And I think the police departments do the best they can with what they have, right?
They do,
And I think, I don't want to get political and start pointing fingers, but to me, a confident police officer, and by confident, I mean confident with his hands or her hands, confident with those tools on those belts, right? That's your safest officer out on the street. And all of that is about training. All of it. Confidence comes with training, right? If you know you can't fight and you're looking at a bad guy that's just committed a crime that you have to arrest, and he looks like he might be able to fight, man, you're already thinking tools, right? Versus, man, training, I've been here. I'm not afraid to get punched in the face. I know if it gets to, the point where I can't go anymore, I can create that space and get to those tools on my belt. So I think it's just going to take time for these departments and for the politicians, unfortunately, to understand that the training is super deficient. And it's not just training in the verbal tactics, right? It's the physical as well. But to be able to get their employee base, their officers, the appropriate training to give them the confidence they need to make those tools on their belt truly last resorts. And ultimately, I think that's everybody's goal. So appreciate the job you do, and love that you've been out here 3 times. And
It's always great to come out with
volumes.
It's awesome.
Volumes. Again, that personal responsibility. Like, yeah, I get X level of training, but it's on you, right? If I want to get better, then I'm not just going to sit here and cry about my department not paying me to go get better. Go get better. Go get some training.
Yeah, I mean, look, when we were all in the military, right? When we were in the military, I chose to be in the military. You choose to be a police officer, right? You can choose to stop at the donut restaurant, or you can choose to eat a salad, right? Same with me. I can choose to wake up and work out, or I can choose to not, right? We can choose to train or choose to not. And so, you know, fortunately, we live in a country where we have those choices, and hopefully talk to your comrades and your buddies and get them training. Get them training.
Yeah. So I mean, like I said, so to answer your question, no, I don't think the retention it slows you down if you do enough training with it.
Makes sense.
That is all.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, guys.
Yeah.
All right.
Thanks for
Awesome.
being
I
here.
appreciate you,
Nice to
sir.
see you again. Appreciate it.
Good seeing you
Yep.
again.
All right, so guys, so hopefully you guys enjoyed the content of our show tonight. If you want any of your questions answered on our show, please comment below with what you have for us. We'll try to fit those questions in on one of our shows. And yeah, see you next time.
Thanks for listening to the American Gunfighter Podcast. Be sure to listen next week. And please don't forget to leave us a review. Also, if there's a topic you'd like us to look into, please be sure to leave a comment.